This just came in today. It's an HYL MIG 160. And the reason I'm doing a video on this is because I couldn't find any videos for this welder on YouTube or anywhere else on the internet. And I went ahead and took a chance and decided to go ahead and purchase it. I got what I think is a decent deal. It was listed on Amazon for $3.99. I ended up calling the distributor out of Florida, and he sold it to me for $280, free shipping, and of course no tax because I don't live in Florida. So at any rate, this is what the package looks like. One discrepancy already right off the bat. As you can see here, it says the weight is 46 pounds. And I don't know if that means the entire box full of the goods or just the welder. But at any rate, the shipping label from UPS says it weighs 35 pounds, which is the entire box. So there's a 11-pound discrepancy on the weight already, which is kind of odd. It does appear to be boxed fairly well. It's fairly well protected. I don't see any damage or anything, so everything looks pretty good. The plug looks substantial for what it is, so we'll continue. Okay, so I got the accessories unboxed. It came with an adapter from 220 volt to 110. Fairly cheap looking stick lead. The ground is also kind of cheap. I would say it might be middle of the road from what I've seen on the internet. There's cheaper ones out there. This one, the spring is mediocre at best. The TIG torch. I don't know much about TIG. Probably won't use it. That's why I haven't unpackaged it yet. The MIG torch is a Parker Torchology. I don't know a lot about Parker, so I'm gonna have to do some research on that. It feels to be fairly substantial, well put together. It's got the rotating ball for added movement. So that's the accessories. It did come with gas hose, which is okay, I guess, clamps, and some consumables. So there's the accessories that came with it. Now to the welder. Okay, so I got the welder out of the box, and to be honest, it doesn't look too bad. Everything looks fairly substantial. It does have the nicer feed system in it, and it will accept up to the 10-pound spools of wire. So far the welder itself looks decent, and I'm glad to see that it does have a manual. I looked everywhere on the internet and could not find a manual for this particular model. So at least it came with one. So I'm going to get this thing set up. I do not have any gas, so I'm going to be using some flux core wire and just see how it welds flux core. And also, I do not have 220 out here in my shop, so I'm going to be using the 110 adapter and seeing how it works. Okay, I got it unboxed and got it set up. Got the MIG wire in there. Flux core again. I don't have any gas to run through it. So my first impressions is it's not too bad. I don't have a lot of experience with welders. I have used Miller and a couple other cheaper brands, but I used a Miller-Matic 135 to build a utility trailer. Actually, it's right outside here. I'll show you. So I built that utility trailer 6.5 by 12 foot with a Miller-Matic 135 that I had borrowed from a friend, and had very little problems. I had some feed issues with it, but I replaced the inner liner on the big torch, and that pretty much went away. So I had no problems with the Miller-Matic 135 to build that. So I thought I'd go ahead and buy myself a welder, and so just comparing this to the Miller-Matic 135, which is the only thing I can really compare it to, no doubt it is definitely more powerful. I just fired it up a few minutes ago off camera to try to dial it in and get an understanding of how the controls work. And the Miller-Matic 135 that I used, I could crank it to its maximum capacity, and it's a 110, by the way. Miller-Matic 135 is a 110 volt, and I could crank it up to its max, and it wouldn't trip a 20 amp breaker. I could run it at its max if I needed to without tripping. However, this, just my first turning it on a few minutes ago, I cranked it up to its max, and I am plugged into 110. I've got the 110 adapter plugged in, so I don't have 220 in my shop yet. And with it cranked all the way up, it welded for about, I'd say, maybe 5 to 10 seconds, and it tripped the breaker. So it was almost immediate, and it was definitely too hot for, I just had some 1/8 inch angle that I was going to weld together, and it was definitely too hot for 1/8 inch angle, turned up to its max. So after I got it turned down and dialed in, no doubt it lays down a good bead. I'm going to set up a few samples here in a minute and do some welding on camera. So okay, so one thing I also wanted to point out is the digital display is if you're in the sun, you're not going to be able to read it out. So you see, you can't really see anything on the screen until you shade it. And of course, on the screen it's flashing, but in real life it's not. So that's just to give you an idea of the screen. Other than that, it looks okay. Okay, so I'm going to do some welding. I don't have a welding lens for my camera, so I'm gonna, this was a practice bead there, getting it dialed in, which didn't turn out too bad. But I'm gonna just weld on this piece a little bit and then come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I still had it a little off on the first longer one there. You can tell this is flux core wire, got weld splatter quite a bit, but with the longer run there, you can tell the wire speed is a little hot, I think, and too fast. So I turned it down just a little bit, and so the second one there looks quite a bit better. And you can tell that it's getting penetration. So all in all, I mean, I think it's a decent welder. I've not tried the stick welding feature yet, and of course I can't try the TIG until I get some gas. But and then I don't know if I'll ever try the TIG. I don't know. I might dabble in that one of these days. Okay, so after I've had time to play with this thing a little bit, I really like it, actually. I like the DINS connectors. They seem to be really nice and easy to connect. It didn't come with a chart. It had one in the manual, so what I did is I copied that information onto an Excel spreadsheet and printed it out and laminated it onto the door panel for quick reference. And what little welding I did with it, actually, those settings seem to be pretty accurate for the machine. So I did try the stick weld function of it, and it worked flawlessly, as well as the MIG. And again, I don't have any gas, so I can't test the TIG torch, but everything else on it works great. A couple of items that I do not like is on the settings for your voltage when you're doing MIG. The wire speed and the voltage are tied together, so when you adjust the wire speed, the voltage goes up or down with your wire speed. It's pre-programmed into the computer on the inside the unit. So I mean, like I said, it seems to work great as far as what I've done so far. However, I know a lot of people would rather it to have where you could adjust those independently from one another, and I'm sure I'm going to run into something where I would wish I could adjust those independently. But for the most part, it seems like those pre-programmed settings in there where they're tied together seems to be pretty good from what I've done so far. But other than that, can't think of anything else really that I don't like about it. Well, I guess the cart that I have it on is Harbor Freight Chicago electric cart, and when I do get a tank for it, as you can see, the way the cart is angled, the back of the welder sticks out past the edge of the cart. So when I get a gas tank, I'm gonna have to, which I was probably gonna get a small gas tank anyway, because I'm just using this as a hobby more than anything. But if you used to put a large gas tank on here, it's going to hit the backside of the welder. And in addition, I've read reviews on other welders, and this one would be no exception. The gas inline is right in the middle of the welder, and so if you have a tank that comes up here right behind your welder, well then the gas line is right in the way. So you would need to get a 90-degree nipple right there so that it wouldn't interfere. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I don't really like, and I think that's about it. So I guess now the big question is just how long is it going to last. It seemed to weld flawlessly on flux core wire and stick, and I used 7018s, by the way, and worked no problem. Let's see, I think they were 3/32 diameter sticks, and worked great. So thanks for watching.